Now then, talking about water, earlier today, the first illegal Channel migrants were detained under the terms of the UK's first returns deal with France, with the government saying that they'll be returned to France in the coming weeks. Now, the Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, hailed the deal as groundbreaking, adding the government is on track to do what no other government has done since this crisis first started. And here is Yvette Cooper speaking earlier on today.
Well, the pilot has now begun, and the first migrants who arrived on small boat are now in detention. That is the first step to removing them to France, because no one should be making this journey in the first place, and that's why this is now starting the process to return people and to undermine this vile trade in people. We won't provide operational details at this point that criminal gangs can simply use and exploit. But no one should be in any doubt. Anyone who arrives from now on is eligible for immediate detention and return. And this pilot will now build, because we are determined that no one should be making this journey.
And that was Yvette Cooper with some good news. But meanwhile, new data suggests, seen exclusive by GB News, an increase in the numbers of asylum seekers living in hotels since the Labour Party came into power. Now, when Labour got into office, there were 29,585 migrants in hotels, but the number as of March the 30th this year is increased 17.4%, in fact, to 32,345. And this is likely to increase further once the next set of data is provided by the Home Office. Well, let's talk this through now. I'm joined in the studio by GB News' political correspondent, Catherine Forster. Catherine, it's meant to be a good news day for the government. This one in, one out deal has been heavily criticised by some in the press and a lot of people watching this channel. But a victory today, but against that backdrop, a steady and inexorable increase in those in asylum hotels.
Well, yes, and that number is quite surprising, because the government has said it will end the use of asylum hotels, well, by the next election, and it's given the impression that the numbers are coming down. Now we hear the numbers have gone up, and I think what's going on is the government are saying they are using fewer asylum hotels, so fewer hotels are being used, but the numbers of people in those hotels has actually gone up, which I think a lot of people were taken aback by. But yes, the government, as far as they are concerned, this is a good news day. They are detaining people. The Prime Minister has said, when I say I will stop at nothing to secure our borders, I mean it. If you break the law to enter this country, you will face being sent back. But will you? Because we know this is a pilot scheme. It can be suspended at a week's notice. They won't give us any numbers. We expect them to be around 50 a week. So given that at the moment, 800 average are crossing every week, and in fact, I think 350 have crossed the channel since this deal came into force, if you are only going to remove, 6% of that number, is that going to be a deterrent? I suggest that until the maths means it's not worth your while, people will keep on coming, because you get put in a hotel, you get your board paid, you could probably work illegally, and you almost certainly are not going to send back. But look, it is something. The government have got to get a grip of this, because if they don't, they are going to be punished very severely at the next election, just like the Conservatives were before them.
And I think the general public, they need to see something happening. They need to see people being sent back. We've seen a few people go back on flights to Albania, but the figures are just one-way traffic, it feels like at the moment, and still lots of questions around this deal itself. The French get to cherry-pick who we're even allowed to send back. They won't take the worst offenders, so we'll still keep, if you like, the bad apples. We'll have to take one in, of course, one out, so the net numbers won't go down. So I wonder, Catherine Forster, if this is a smokescreen to a much bigger problem.
Well, it's a huge problem, and it's a problem across the whole of Europe. Now, the government would say we're doing lots of different things. They've got this deal with France now, which is going to enable them to go out into the shallow water. Because, of course, the boats don't come in now. They literally go along the coast, picking people up. And the police, the French police, are standing there with their arms folded, taking pictures, despite the fact we've given hundreds of millions to France. We've done a deal with Germany now as well. They are going to change the laws by the end of the year, making it a crime to be involved in facilitating people smuggling. You'd think it already would be, wouldn't you? But the government is trying to do a lot of different things. There's so many announcements. But look, The numbers are the evidence of whether it's working or not. So far, it is not working. The government will have to hope that they can start to turn a corner with this.
Thank you, Catherine Forster, and please stick with us. I'd like to bring my next guest in now, though.
Have you had a random call lately from a strange number, maybe trying to sell you something or even scam you? If so, your info could be out there. That's because of data brokers, shady companies that scrape the internet for your personal details and sell them to marketers or even scammers. These days, scammers can even use AI to mimic your friends' voices and trick you into sending money. It's not just annoying. Data brokers often target vulnerable people with high-interest loans or sketchy offers. But there is a solution. Incogni, the sponsor of this video. Incogni contacts data brokers on your behalf and requests your info be deleted from their databases. And because your data can keep popping up, Incogni keeps sending removal requests to make sure it stays gone. They've just launched a new unlimited plan with custom removals. If you find your info on a weird website, just send them the link and their privacy team will work to get it taken down. Getting started is easy. Hit the link in the description, create your account and let Incogni handle the rest. It's risk-free for 30 days and you'll get 60% off an annual plan with the code GBNews. Take back control of your data with Incogni.
And that's the owner of the Camelot Castle Hotel. And he refused to take asylum seekers after being asked by the Home Office, and that is the magnificent John Mappin. John, welcome to the show. Pleasure to have your company. You stood up and you did the right thing. You were no doubt dangled a big bag of cash. You didn't succumb to that. But in fact, you may have heard there, John Mappin, numbers released by GB News exclusively today, a 17.4% increase in the numbers of people in asylum hotels in Britain since the Labour Party came into power. What do you make of that?
Well, Martin, thank you very much for having me on. I mean, this isn't an asylum. This is a state-sponsored invasion. The government is clearly not stopping illegal migration. It's actively facilitating it. And we are funding our own cultural erasure. It's not mismanagement, it's a betrayal sort of dressed up as compassion. I mean, I just got back from Europe, actually, and I attended a dinner there with some French and German financiers. And sort of after dinner, they were joking and laughing about this situation. And the truth of the matter is, this is a European plan. This is a sort of a Brexit revenge. It's a national sabotage. 9 million a day to house strangers where our veterans are sleeping on the street. I mean, it's like a systematic demoralization of the British people. Veterans, elderly, our own working people are being sacrificed in order for, German and French and European financiers to have a laugh. And I promise you this, the dinner was in Switzerland, and these individuals were literally having a laugh at our expense and telling me, quite frankly, how, they were lining their own pockets in relation to this. And our towns... Sorry.
It's just, I mean, it's almost heartbreaking to hear that. But at the same time, hotels, John Mappin, at the tip of the iceberg, figures out from GB News today, exclusively seen by us, shows an actual fact, the number of asylum seekers, 30% are in hotels, 70% are in houses of multiple occupancy, in neighbourhoods across working class Britain where nobody ever had a say, nobody ever had a veto, let alone a right to refuse. I was in Sunderland last week and communities torn apart by people from outside areas, thrust into traditional working class areas. And we also find out today, those in accommodation on the taxpayer's dime in Britain, John Mappin, 97% of them get the full bells and whistles. Accommodation, subsistence, phones, the full shebang.
No, I mean, it isn't. They are absolutely having a laugh. And our towns are being filled with unvetted, and I'm sorry to say, some of these people are highly dangerous young men who have zero loyalty to Britain whatsoever. So the joke here, this is not sort of the Home Office is broken. it's been hijacked. And the data today confirms what you and I have feared. Our institutions are not any longer working for the British people. They're working against them. And the numbers are not an accident. This is a blueprint for a managed collapse. I am furious about this. And I think it is extremely important that every Briton, every person that loves their country, decides to communicate about this and to make their voice peacefully, sanely, rationally heard. I don't think there's any excuse for any type of unlawful behaviour, but we must communicate. Write your MP. A lot of people are suggesting, that now they're going to run for office. And I think it's very important that people do get politically involved, because what we've done is we've allowed people to enter government that, frankly, do not have the British people's interest at heart. And they're being controlled by Europe. This is a complete farce.
OK, John Mappin, sobering words, and thank you very, very much for sharing them with us today. Really do appreciate your time. That's the owner of the Camelot Castle Hotel, John Mappin. Now, we have a right to reply here. A Home Office spokesman told GB News this. Since taking office, we have taken immediate action to fix the asylum system and have started closing down hotels and returning more than 35,000 people with no right to be here. Now, from over 400 asylum hotels opened in the summer of 2023, costing almost £9 million a day, there are now less than 210. And we want them all closed by the end of this Parliament.